What are we starting with this week?
A wee review.
Wrong.
A wee email.
Wrong.
Spotify. No, we did that kind of recently.
We did that recently.
A wee comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
The YouTube.
I forgot we did that.
The YouTube. It's because it was almost a month ago. The YouTube.
Oh, yeah, my memory lasts that long. Just under that long, actually.
Just under a month. Just
By roughly a week.
Well, actually, a month ago, Champ, we started half an hour later, so, you know.
Oh.
So-
I can still kind of remember that. Yeah,
Oh,
you're
my
right,
Lord.
you're right, yeah.
So, the YouTube comment of the week for this week, and I suppose this month too, it says, why doesn't this podcast have more likes? I watched almost all the videos here, and they're literally all amazing. Like, damn, I guess most people just suck for not watching this. The reason I bring this up is because on one of our first episodes before we did video. So if you,
Right. Oh.
what you should do is you should go to our YouTube channel and watch those ones, because you might have missed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're sitting there thinking, why doesn't this show have more likes? Send it to your friends.
Also,
Tell them to
like,
watch
you
it.
should like it. Then you'll
That's true.
have more likes.
That is actually a
I'm not-
direct fix for the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want
like-
to point out again that this is not an issue on the current videos. This was an issue specifically on the old one.
Oh.
Go like the old ones.
Yeah,
You
that's
probably
what,
haven't
that's
liked
what this
them.
comment was on.
Okay. Well, I still think the entire show should be bigger, so.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely share it with your friends. Don't just share the old ones, share the
Yeah.
new ones. Share Luke.
Yeah. The
Take a picture of
the
Luke,
new ones are better.
Carry it around in your pocket. Share it with your friends.
Yeah. Pookie
Luke-
in my pocket.
Lukey Pocket.
Pookie pocket, yeah.
That's a reference to something they're not gonna.
We had a 10-minute conversation about the children's game Polly Pocket before the show.
We
Yeah,
need to
I
start
learnt
this
a
show.
lot. I learnt
Okay,
a
so we've
lot.
got a question for you to start the show this week. So the question for everyone that we've got this week, get down in the comments and answer it, is what's your favorite color? Let us know what it is. What's your favorite color?
Ooh.
Shall we start the show?
What's your favorite color?
No, we don't answer the question.
Oh, we don't
'cause
answer them.
No, we don't
We're
answer.
mysterious.
Yeah, we're mysterious because we're asking them the question. But if we answer the question,
Okay.
we have a conversation. And it takes too long to get into the
Okay.
show.
Well, guess my favorite color.
What? No, none of this is staying.
Yeah,
in.
we will. To be fair, we would sway the data if we
True.
sort of weighed in on our favorite colors.
Be like, oh yeah, me too.
Guys, the point of us not answering the question is to streamline things. So let's just
Jem,
start the
point
show.
of us not answering the question is so that it doesn't go on for
I'm
very
sorry, I
long.
wasn't briefed.
Well,
You were briefed.
last
You were
week.
briefed last week when
Yeah,
we
you
had
were
the
briefed
same-
last week.
just
To be
like-
fair,
I just
Jem,
like
do you not
answering your
remember,
questions.
Jem, last week, right? So last week, if you remember, no, look, I'm going to tell you a story. Last week,
My memory doesn't last that long.
Corey said last week, I'm going to ask everyone a question, and I
Yeah.
don't want you to answer it because otherwise we'll go on for so long.
Yeah.
And now, look what you've done.
If you'd let me just answer it, we would have been done.
What
by
would
now.
you have? Out of interest, now that we've taken so long, what would you have answered? What is your favorite color?
Let me think about it.
Yeah, have a think. I'll think too. Corey, you have a think. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is let's start the show.
Oh, really? That's not a color. Do you think that's a color?
Oh my God, start it. Come on, let's just go.
Green.
Let's start the show.
Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to the SCI Guys, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird, and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jamp and Luke Cutforth.
My favorite color is blue.
Thank you for answering the question.
This week, we're talking about black being the new black.
Is that your favorite color?
Ah,
Well, is black a color? That's really the question.
it's an absence
Oh.
of color.
Well, white is also an absence of color.
Yeah, I didn't say it wasn't.
I hear people saying it's a tone. People are like, black's not a color, it's a tone.
I don't like
That's what
your
I've heard.
tone, sir. No,
That's
thank
all
you.
right.
Change
Oh,
it.
Just don't shoot the messenger.
No, okay, so we're going to be talking about black and black stuff. Have you guys heard of Vantablack by any chance?
Yes,
The-
it is
the
the blackest black.
Ooh,
Well,
look at
that's
that.
not actually true. It's not the blackest black. Not anymore.
Well, the blackest black that they made into like a paint or something.
Well, it was once the blackest black, but it's no longer the blackest black. They've made blacker blacks, right?
Oh.
Oh.
Because that was back in
what's-
2014.
What's blacker than Vantablack?
Well, it doesn't. I don't think it's got a name. I don't know the name of it off the top. We'll get into it, right?
So
we'll get
black
into the
it's
black.
nameless.
So hang on. If
Drawing a black.
black, surely if it's not the blackest black, it's not really black. It's grey.
No,
Only true black is really black.
Luke, I don't think you gatekeeping the black community is really going to play
Oh.
well for the audience.
Who are you to say what's black enough?
White boy over here trying to tell me what makes black black. If you're not the blackest black, you're mixed, bro. Okay? I don't want to hear you coming on here telling me you're black if you're not the first African that ever existed. Luke Cutforth, 2021.
I feel like I've done something wrong.
Being told off, naughty.
Honestly, look, the NAACP is going to be after you, from this. No.
I'd like to formally apologize.
Do you guys know what black is?
It is an absence of light.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. So your eyes, you know how your eyes see stuff, right? Can you give a brief
Light.
description of
Cones and rods, when light particles or waves hit them, then they turn into electrical signals that go down the vagus nerve. No, not the vagus nerve. The optic nerve, to the brain, which turns them into an image for you to see somehow.
Somehow.
And no one knows how because we don't know what consciousness is. So,
Yeah, I mean,
We've jumped to that part of the episode. There we go.
Wow, gone right in the deep end. Yeah, so essentially what happens is photons, which is like little bundles of light, little bundles of energy. We call them light. Photons, right? Let's just think of it as a little ball that is what light is, right?
Mhm.
That's the easiest way for what we're talking about.
only when you're looking at it, though.
Yeah, well, you're
always looking at it.
We're talking right. We're only talking about looking at it because we're talking about looking.
Okay.
So, a photon hits your eye, right?
Ow.
Yeah, ouch. A lot of them are hitting your eye. Yeah, like every second. So a photon hits your eye, and the back of your eye, the retina, and essentially that registers. Oh, a photon has hit me. Cool. Gonna tell the optical nerve. Tells the brain. The brain makes an image. Yeah, a little.
I'm telling on you.
GBH.
So, when one photon hits, right? So that's a smaller signal essentially, right? But if more photons hit, you've got a bigger signal, right? So essentially, that's kind of how blackness works, right? In that things get darker if there are fewer photons hitting your eyes, right? So if you if we were to turn off all the lights in this room, there'd be less sort of light, obviously, which means less photons bouncing about, which means less photons hitting your eye, which is why you're like, oh, this is darker because I can't see as
This
much
is
because
black.
there are fewer photons.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's black, but yeah.
That was dark.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah. So as there are fewer photons hitting your eye,
Yeah.
it gets darker, right? And so when we look at stuff, the reason that we think stuff is black is because it is not reflecting like any one color of sort of light. It's absorbing all colors of light essentially equally. Yeah. That's it. That's the key word I was missing there. I couldn't remember it. Yeah. So it's absorbing all colors of light equally, pretty much, right? And it's not reflecting as much light as other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's relatively black.
Yeah. So the less light something is sort of reflecting, the fewer photons something is reflecting to hit your eyes, the blacker it's going to look, right? So that's kind of how blackness works. In terms of colors, not in terms of people. That is a whole can of worms we do not want to open today, right? That kind of blackness is off the
Very
table for
entirely
today.
separate.
So we're gonna talk about Vantablack. So obviously, if something is blacker, the less light it sort of reflects. If something is absorbing a lot of light, it's gonna look sort of blacker, right? So if you want to find the blackest thing, you've got to find or make something that absorbs a lot of light, like almost all of the light that hits it. I mean, if you think about it, a black hole, the reason we call a black hole is because if sort of light passes the event horizon, it can't come back.
It's absorbing literally all light.
Yeah, so that a black hole is probably the blackest thing that we know that exists.
Wow.
It's so black that you literally cannot see it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. With looking for the blackest black, we're trying to find stuff that absorbs a ton of light, and so they did that with Vantablack. So the sort of the really black sort of started in sort of 2007. That's when they started really making really black blacks. But
Paints.
no, not paints.
Oh, really?
Just so materials. So these aren't
Materials.
paint. These aren't paints that we're talking about. These are materials that are black. They then we'll get into it later. A lot of people think that Vantablack is like a paint.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a paint. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a paint. It's we're talking about materials here, and there's kind of a way to use it like a. We'll get to that in a second, right? So Vantablack, it was made in the UK actually. It was made in Surrey, the University of Surrey. So they were trying to make very very black things, and so essentially what Vantablack is, it's in the name, vertically aligned nanotubules. Yeah. So
that's what it stands for.
yeah.
That makes sense.
So
Okay.
Vantablack, the Vanta stands for vertically aligned nanotubule array.
I didn't know it stood for anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go. Vertically aligned nanotubule array.
There we go.
You got that, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, vertically aligned nanotubular array.
I look forward to the quickfire quiz.
Yeah.
Now he's like, got to change my question.
No, you guys, I'm confident that you guys will forget that by then.
100%.
Look, I'll straight up say, that is the question for the quickfire quiz. So Vantablack is essentially tiny little tubules of carbon that are sort of standing up, right? And it absorbs, they say it absorbs 99.965% of light, which is a lot. That's a lot of light to absorb. So when you look at it, it's like looking at something that isn't there. You can't see, because you can't see any of the ridges or, usually when something's like, you see something, right? You can see sort of depth and ridges in it because of the way that the light reflects off of it. But if it's not really reflecting very much light, you can kind of see it. It just looks like a silhouette more than anything.
Oh.
It looks like if you were to have like a ball that was painted that had like sort of a ball made out of the Vantablack material, right? You were holding it. It would look less like you're looking at a ball and more like you're looking at just a hole,
A gap.
just a space of nothingness,
like almost like a black hole.
Yeah, like exactly. It's one of the thing is when you're looking at it, it's probably the closest you could get to looking at like what a black hole would look like, I guess. So they made this this Vantablack in 2014, and essentially all of these tubes sort of stand up on their end. It says like if you think like how basically like looking at a lawn of grass, except instead of grass it's carbon tubes.
Like loads of things, like the little tubes you get tennis balls in. Loads of those.
Oh,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, lots of macaroni.
Well, macaroni's bent though.
Is it? Not the macaroni I have in my house. It's all
Only straight macaroni.
macaroni.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what elbow macaroni, right? So I don't think macaroni necessarily has to be bent. I apologize. I rescind my
There you
statement.
You
Italians, please get in the comments and tell us about your weird food.
Which is the default macaroni.
Which is the correct macaroni. Oh boy, I'm sure there will be opinions. So there's little tubes of carbon all sticking up, and essentially what happens is the photon of light. Remember, we like the little sort of bundle, the little sort of ball of light. Let's say it comes in, and it gets to the top, and it bounces in between all the carbon sort of tubes, and eventually then just gets absorbed by them. So that's the thing. You can sort of absorb light, and the material then sort of just dissipates the heat. So the light gets absorbed, it gets basically turned into heat energy, and it dissipates.
So would the tiny percentage of ones that are reflected be ones that hit so perpendicular that they go all the way down the tube and then all the way back out the tube?
Maybe not necessarily. I think it's
Or they could hit the edge of the tube and bounce
I
off.
think there's a number of ways that the light could reflect. I mean, essentially, just the way that it means that like more than 99% of the light that enters gets absorbed before it can reflect off, right? Because essentially, what's happening is that, what's happening with everything else is that the light is hitting it, and the surface will absorb some of the light and turn that into sort of heat energy, like in the same way that if you're in the sun, your skin will feel hot because you're absorbing some of the energy. But
Black plimsolls in primary school, they got so hot.
Yeah,
they were awful.
It's like wearing a black t-shirt in summer, right? You want to wear a white t-shirt.
Like down the beach.
Yeah,
when you're in a black t-shirt, it gets really hot.
Yeah, if you wear a white t-shirt, it reflects the heat so that you don't feel necessarily as hot. If you're wearing something black, that's why a lot of winter clothes are like darker as well. I think they're black.
Retain heat.
Yeah, retain heat. You don't often see like white winter clothes, do you?
No, other than if you get like one of those really fancy white coats with like a big fluffy thing around the
like a fur coat.
Yeah.
I think that's because the animal fur is white more than.
That's really sad.
Probably, yeah.
Like a winter fox.
Yeah.
Draped around your rich body.
So yeah. Again, the whole thing here is to try and get something to absorb as much light as possible, and then it dissipates that heat. And yeah, so essentially, so little light is coming back, so few photons are coming back to hit your eye from this thing that your brain is just like, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Like it literally looks like a sort of just absence of thing.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of initial Vantablack. They continued to sort of make Like they continue to sort of like work on it and make darker sort of Vantablacks. And the thing is that initially it was incredibly difficult to sort of make. Again, it's a material, so it was difficult. You had to sort of basically kind of grow the nanotubules, and they were very delicate.
Grow them?
Yeah,
How?
chemical processes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Like crystallizing or...
not exactly like that, but I mean, a similar. You could use a similar sort of like idea of it if you want to think of it that way. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, it's a very complex process. It's not
Yeah.
something that I'm going.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, it was very difficult to get onto stuff. So you couldn't just have anything be Vantablack sort of thing. But then they made a sort of they worked on it, and they had a way essentially of like using a robot to spray it on something in this box. So essentially, they've got this sort of robot system that can apply Vantablack to other materials.
Cool.
Right? We'll get to that in a bit. Keep that in your head. They basically initially it was incredibly difficult. Like it was difficult to put Vantablack on anything. Like as in you couldn't do it as a person. It's not like you could just paint it on, right? And even then, afterwards, it still wasn't like you could just paint it on. There was a specialized system for applying it to stuff, and they are selling it, not commercially. Like you cannot buy it. We couldn't buy it as people. A company could potentially buy it for something, but they're very, very they're very stingy with who they give it out to, it seems. I mean, even if you go on their website, they're like, oh, if you want a sample, you need to fill out this form absolutely like correctly. Like we won't even like start the process or respond unless this is all filled out fully like properly.
And you get a sample. They send you a sample of the material pre-made.
I think that it's honestly, I went on the website, it was difficult to, I think it's a sample of the material pre-made, but they need to make sure that they would actually give it to you, so they're not just giving out Vantablack to anyone.
Right.
They made a BMW that was Vantablack. It was cool though.
Wow.
Yeah, and BMW was like the only car company they worked with. They had a lot of people coming into them, and they made like I think one Vantablack BMW that was just like a stunt essentially. But they were looking into it, and apparently sort of parking sensors and stuff, and all of the sort of technology that they had in cars to stop them from like sort of crashing and things like that. They could still work with it. You'd think that they might not work because the sensors are picking up on sort of reflections of light from the cars, but they made it so that it did work. It could just be that it's remember, right? Light is a very broad spectrum. When we talk about light, a lot of the time we talk about visible light, but visible light is exactly the same thing as X-rays, as microwaves,
Yeah.
any of that kind of radiation, exact same thing as light, just different wavelengths, different sort of energy, right? So it could just be that they're going outside the visible spectrum.
So Vantablack absorbs the visible spectrum, but it might reflect other wavelengths.
Although I think it also absorbs, I can't remember if it absorbs UV radiation or not, but essentially all they really care about is absorbing the visible spectrum because, I mean, for us, that's generally what we care about.
I assume you will be answering this, but why? Why make this?
Well, we'll get to it. Okay. Essentially, I mean, look,
Stealth planes.
That was one thing they said. However, I think the thing that's brought up most, and there's really basically, this is basically the only thing that's ever brought up, is telescopes. So in a telescope, if any part of your telescope reflects light, then you'll get glare. Or in cameras even, right? You don't want if any part of this camera reflects light, it's going to cause glare. It's going to mess with your image. And if with a telescope or a telescopic camera or whatever, if you're looking to space, you want to be like, you don't want any sort of light pollution because you're trying to look at stuff that's far away. You've got a little light coming in. You need to utilize basically all the light. So if you coat sort of the parts of the telescope in Vantablack, then it will absorb as much light as possible. You'll have as little glare, as little pollution. I think on some sort of space shuttles or like a lot of this is space stuff, really. For guidance systems, I think there was some kind of trip to the moon where the guidance systems couldn't necessarily work because there was too much glare coming in from the light from the Milky Way.
The Milky Way is just blinding me today.
Boy,
Turn the headlights down.
So, and it's like, right, okay, if you coated streets in Vantablack, you wouldn't have glare coming up from the streets.
So I wouldn't be able to see where you're going.
No, you would.
Would you?
Why would you not be able to see where
You
you're going?
wouldn't see the floor.
Yeah, we don't need to see
You'd
the
be walking
floor.
on just nothing. You'd be walking on like empty space.
I meant for driving.
Oh, you mean the street floor?
Yeah, the asphalt.
The asphalt, not the pavement.
Imagine the pavement.
No, that would feel like I've
Walking in the void. Yeah, you're right.
They're like I've seen when people have done sort of like really blacks on pavements. I think art installations of like holes, like hole not on pavements but on the ground, and it looks just like a hole. I do not like it.
Yeah.
It is very scary. Like it looks like a pit to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what it's used for essentially. Anywhere, any sort of time when you don't want any light pollution, you can coat something in Vantablack and it'll absorb as much as possible. I think also like rockets, guidance systems, things like that. But yeah, so that was Vantablack. But in 2019, MIT developed a blacker black than Vantablack. And this is actually way cooler, I think, as well, because Vantablack, like I said, it was kind of fragile, right? All the tubules need to be standing up straight. They need to be made in a certain way. It took them a while to even make it possible to apply that sort of material to something else. So, and even then, they still had to do it with a robot in a box, whatever. This new material made at MIT was interesting. It was essentially they grow the carbon nanotubules on aluminium, and what happened was there was an aluminium like a sort of oxide layer on the like sort of forming on the aluminium, an oxide layer like when iron rusts. That's iron oxide essentially, right? So an oxide layer. Just think of it as corrosion. Essentially, other metals can't rust. That's reserved for iron. But when another metal rusts, right? When copper goes green, that's it's an oxide layer. Yeah. And so this is the issue, right? Whenever you expose the aluminium to air, the oxygen in the air, it oxidizes, right? So you get that sort of aluminium oxide layer on top, and that blocks electricity and heat. And he was looking for a different way to sort of get rid of that layer. So he used salt to do that. So basically, the chloride and sodium chloride salt. The chloride in that would strip away that layer, and then he would take that and put it in like an oxygen-free environment. That way, you couldn't get the aluminium oxide growing on the top of it, and then started growing the nanotubules on that. And the way that by doing that, they basically grew the nanotubules on the aluminium at lower temperatures than they would have had to do otherwise. It basically boiling. They had to do it at 100 degrees. Still, it's hot, but it would have had to been. It was not at 100 degrees. It was 100 degrees lower than they would have had to do it otherwise. So it's saving on energy. And it was really cool because essentially the way that they'd done this, it ended up that it could absorb a ton of light, more so than Vantablack. So it says 99.995 to Vantablack's, I think, what was that, 99.965?
Pathetic.
Yeah, pathetic.
Honestly.
Who cares about Vantablack
The
anymore?
extra 9.
Shouldn't even try.
So that's one thing. It's slightly blacker, but the thing is that it's also pretty rough. The sort of analogy that they used here is that the Vantablack is pretty frail because they only be standing on end. This is more like a sort of like a dish scrubber, where they can kind of be tangled and look like whatever, right? So it means that if you're sending it to space, you could put it to space. Obviously, going to space, you got to go through the atmosphere. It's rough on any material that you're sending up into space. So so this is what he said. Old versions were like fragile forest of fur, but these are more like pot scrubbers built to take up use. So you can beat them, you can send them into space, all of that stuff, and they'll still be fine, still absorb a ton of light, right? That's the thing. Again, with the old Vantablack, this was a completely different group that made this, but with the old Vantablack, they all had to be standing up on end, otherwise it doesn't work.
Right.
Do they? This is probably a really stupid question, but when it degrades as a material, the Vantablack, do they fall over?
I think that these are nanotubules.
Yeah, no, I understand that, of course, but if something bashes them,
Yeah.
do they just
It's like a domino
do they
effect.
fall
isn't it?
over?
You know,
So-
one falls over, then it knocks the next, and the next, and the next. And the next.
I'm not meaning to ask a stupid question.
And then it's
Okay,
white.
no, no,
When
no.
they've all fallen
Delicate
over,
for
it's
that
white.
reason, because
What?
they have to
Okay.
be vertical.
It's not a stupid question. That's all.
I mean, it is.
No, it's not. It's not. I just need to explain to you how small these are.
Yeah.
Right. So you're thinking of it as a domino thing because they're big.
Yeah.
If you knock one over, they'll be pulled down by gravity. These are
No. I don't mean gravity necessarily. I mean, can you like, if there's a cup here and I knock it, like I give it a force, it doesn't necessarily fall over due to gravity. It rotates, right? Then the fact that it then goes to the table as gravity, but it's rotated but due to the force.
Yeah.
So like, can you knock over these little nanotubules if something bashes them at an angle, at a right angle to the way they're meant to be? Does that make them not vertical anymore?
I think they just sort of break and bend and get
okay.
displaced.
Oh, they snap. That's very nice.
I think, to be perfectly
Much
honest,
less fun.
I did not find that specific question.
Well, you should have thought of it.
I should have, although I would have had to go to the creators of Vantablack because I don't think anyone else has thought of that question.
That's true.
No,
Do the tubules knock over at any point?
like you got to remember that physics is like just slightly less intuitive at that sort of nano
Small
scale.
sizes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, like when I say nanotubules, they are tiny. You can't see them.
Yeah.
And you can't. It's not like little individual tubes of carbon that you can see. I think it's probably thinner than the width of a human hair.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, like it's like graphite is one single atom thick, isn't it?
Graphene.
Graphene. Sorry, is
Grapheme.
one. Graphene is
Grapheme?
one.
Graphene?
Graphene.
No, grapheme is in language. Graphene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one. The definition I think is one atom thick layer of carbon,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that's pretty small.
Yeah. And we also did a whole
Yeah.
episode on graphene.
We did.
Graphene.
Graphene.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was an early one, but I forgot the title. I remember the titles, so if the title is different.
Floating frogs.
Oh, 19.
Whoa!
There we go.
Mind blown.
I mean, between the three of us, we know everything about every SCI GUYS episode.
I know nothing, and you two know the rest between you.
So yeah, essentially, those are these two substances, right? That absorb a ton of light. You can use them in sort of instruments where you need to like sort of cameras, telescopes, things like that. And this new sort of, it's not Vantablack because Vantablack is a trademark, but this new Blackest Black can take a beating, so it's probably a little bit. It's maybe a little bit more useful than Vantablack. Now you may recall that I said earlier that Vantablack was difficult to apply, and then they made a thing where that it could be slightly easier to apply, and also that it's not available to sort of consumers, right? Well, have you ever heard of Anish Kapoor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I know the name. That's it.
Yeah, that's
I've
all
heard
I
of
know.
the. Yeah.
Have you heard
I feel like I'm about to learn.
positively or negatively?
Oh.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Do you have any idea what Anish Kapoor does
No.
as a person? An artist? He's an artist? No? So,
What did he do?
well, the people at the University of Surrey, right? The people that made Vantablack, they thought, do you know what? Look, let's give this out to sort of like people in the arts, because obviously this is like the Blackest Black is something that artists might want to use. And actually, interestingly, the new Blackest Black made by MIT also had an art project attached to it. It's you could probably find it online. It's basically like a sort of crystal, and then I think the same crystal painted essentially with or covered in their Blackest Black material.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's always very cool in art because like you've got blacker than any black you could think
Yeah.
of really. So Anish Kapoor got basically got an agreement, got a contract for the sole right to use Vantablack in art. No one else but Anish Kapoor is allowed to use Vantablack in art. Now, a lot of people like sort of reported this. This is back in 2016. But
that does ring a bell.
yeah. So
Yeah.
a lot of people way back then were reporting incorrectly, saying that it was a paint or things like that. It's not quite a paint. You still need to apply it like sort of professionally. But he used it in some art installations. But the fact is that a lot of people in the art community were not happy with this because you're basically saying this Blackest Black material can only be used by this one person. That doesn't really seem sort of democratic. Of course, I guess if you're a sort of capitalist, you think, well, that makes perfect sense. But if you're a normal, sane person, you might think, hey, maybe everyone should be allowed to enjoy this invention. So yeah, people were not happy with that. Did you hear about this at all?
I have a vague memory of someone taking the color. I didn't know who Anish Kapoor is.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, fair
I
enough.
didn't know.
Because I read this on Tumblr, 2016.
A while ago.
Oh god, I just
5 years ago.
I had to admit that I was still on Tumblr in 2016. No, so Yeah, people weren't necessarily happy about it, and in particular, there was one person who sort of stood up against this. Have you heard of Stuart Semple?
No.
Stuart Semple is a British artist born in 1980 who took it upon himself to make the pinkest pink.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
I heard about the pinkest pink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Stuart Semple took it upon himself to make the pinkest pink, and then also the blackest black. So he's got Black 3.0 out right now. He's got the pinkest pink, and this is the thing. He's also got not the bluest blue. It's brilliant blue or something else blue.
Yeah.
Because interestingly, this is not the first time that someone has had the sole right to use a color in art. Because I think someone else essentially made that's it. Yves Klein made his own sort of shade of blue, the bluest blue, and patented that. So no one else was allowed to use it in art apart from this person. But the difference here with sort of Anish Kapoor is that Anish Kapoor didn't have any hand in making it. He just paid. He just paid for this. The exclusive license to use it. And so Stuart Semple made the blackest sort of Black 3.0, the sort of blackest black paint that you could buy. Stuart Semple also made the pinkest pink, the sparkliest or the glitteriest sort of glitter. There is there's like the shiniest paint. There's like a chrome paint. You can find all of this, by the way, on Culture Hustle. Stuart Semple sells his stuff online. And speaking of, I've actually got some of the blackest.
Stop.
Yeah, I've got some of the blackest black paint. So I've got some things for you guys.
Oh yeah.
Stop it.
Show and tell.
Now, bear in mind, I have painted this at home with a makeup brush.
You patented it.
No,
Wow. Are you the only
I painted
scientist
this at
who's
home
allowed
with a
to use
makeup
it?
brush.
Wow.
It doesn't necessarily. I don't know how it's going to look on camera, right? But this is, if we were to coat stuff properly with this, with the primer and everything,
Yeah.
it would absorb loads of light. I've actually got an image that we could probably put on screen.
Yeah.
That shows.
Send it my way.
That shows. So you guys can look at that. That's
Ooh.
an unedited.
Wow.
That's an unedited photo. It actually looks a little bit better on these little cards. So I've got some cards for you guys to play with.
Sorry, I've just taken this underneath here where there isn't all the studio lights on. Look at that, Jam. That's just
It's
so
gone.
dark.
Oh my god, it's gone.
So dark. Sorry, you
Yeah.
can't enjoy this, but we can, and we can express our enjoyment in sounds.
You can personally enjoy it at home as well because you can buy Black 3.0. I've got this. I bought some from Anish Kapoor's. Not Anish Kapoor. No, I didn't buy it from Anish Kapoor. I bought it from Stuart Semple.
You'd have liked to, but Anish Kapoor wouldn't let you.
Well, no. So I bought this from Culture Hustle, where you can buy all of these different colors, unless, of course, you're Anish Kapoor. That's the one person who is not allowed to.
I heard about
Oh.
The one person, so it says on the website everywhere, right? The one person who is not allowed to buy any of these colors is Anish Kapoor, who he actually did. He bought the pink, dipped his finger in it, his middle finger, and posted that to Instagram.
It's war.
There was a little bit of a war for a while.
War of the colours.
But a lot of people obviously supported Stuart Semple because there was a point where he was essentially sort of just making this pink and selling it for I think about 4 weeks. Tom Scott did a little interview with him, a video on this whole situation, and yeah, I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. I'm with Stuart Semple on this. Like, you know,
100%.
You bloody socialist.
but no, this is really
bastard.
this is really great. This is me painting this with a makeup brush at home, and it doesn't necessarily look like much, but if we had that looks quite good to me
That
from
looks
here.
that.
If you go hit it with the right
That
angle,
looks good on camera actually as well.
if you hit it with the right angle,
It's this angle.
it can look really quite
Whoa.
good,
Look
right?
at that. Let's try the cube on my
I feel like
camera.
your hair is darker though.
The thing is, right? So we got to remember that this is the great thing about this is that it's cheap and it's a pigment. So the thing is that to turn this into a paint, essentially what you're doing is making it easier to apply.
Yeah.
And to make it a commercially sort of viable or available paint, you've got to make it cheaper. This is really black for paint, but
Yeah.
also it's not necessarily the blackest thing that you could make. The fact that you can apply it as literally painting this onto something is just
Yeah.
as easy as painting it on. So it is literally one of the blackest paints that you can get. And essentially what they've got to do is pack it full of pigment, because that's kind of how paints work. It's kind of a sort of suspension of pigment and whatever's carrying it. So in oil paints, it's oil. In watercolors, it's water. You get the picture, right?
Yeah.
So this is incredibly cool. This is incredibly cool that this can exist. So I thought it might be cool if everyone that's watching this went down to the comments and said, hey, something that you'd like for us to paint the blackest black. And we could maybe do it in a future video.
A banana.
A banana?
Yeah.
Oh,
The blackest banana.
The blackest banana. That's pretty cool.
I think they all have to begin with B.
I don't think they need to begin with B. No. They can begin with any letter of the alphabet.
Banana.
You could a blackberry? The blackest blackberry.
The blackest blackberry.
Phone, though.
Phone.
Get the blackest BlackBerry phone.
Paint it all black. Even the screen, everything.
It's called the BlackBerry.
The thing is, I am not. Bear in mind, I need to be very clear about this. I am not saying that you do this. Do not try this at home. It does not irritate skin. Usually, it's non-toxic. You shouldn't ingest it, but it's non-toxic. It doesn't irritate skin. At least it didn't irritate my skin when I put it on my skin, and it looks pretty cool. It's weird because you've got like. It's blacker than it should look, right?
Give yourself like the blackest tattoos ever.
Yeah, like it looks blacker than something usually should.
Yeah.
Right? Just because it's absorbing so much light. There are very few things that absorb that much light. It's always very strange. So I think it'd be cool. We could anything that's easily attainable or not easily attainable. Send us something. We'll paint it black, like army figures or bananas. Or blackberries, or other things that aren't fruits or phones. Anything. Let us know in the comments. Comment something that you think would be really cool to see painted with the blackest black, and we might do it in a future video. And yeah, so I'm just basically reading from the website here. It was made with over 1,000 different artists who sort of did the beta testing. They funded it on Kickstarter. This is Black 3.0, the latest one. So they describe it as the blackest and mattest acrylic paint on the planet. Unlike other super black coatings, it can be safely applied with nothing more than a brush, and we've worked super hard to make it affordable. So it's not necessarily the blackest black you can make something, but it is the blackest black that you can make at home. And I'm not going to lie, when it comes to black paint, this is pretty black. Pretty black. Yeah, it's pretty black. I was like, when you look at it like in like slightly lower lighting conditions, it looks like it's not there sometimes. So here you go. Take the cube.
Thank you for the cube.
Oh,
no cube for me.
No.
Is that going to sit in the background as SCI GUYS forever?
Oh my god, yeah, we'll add it. Hold on. Oh, but you can't see it. So
Wait, nothing.
I'll catch a little bit of light.
Look, whenever you can't see something,
there you go.
It's
that thing right there. That's the cube.
Wait, hang on. Look, if you zoom in on it, wow, look how dark it is.
Oh my god, yeah.
It's just completely black.
Yeah.
I just cut to an empty feed.
Very good.
These are our Vantablack lights. Sorry, Black 3.0 lights.
It's like a reverse Tesseract, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's from a Marvel movie. Look, I'm not talking about the shape.
I am aware.
Okay.
Thank you.
From the first Avengers film, it's the MacGuffin.
Is it a cube? It's a little cube that glows bluey white.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hell yeah!
Well done. Good job.
You.
Yeah.
9-year-old film. Well, actually, no.
And then what happens to it?
It gets some stuff shot at it, doesn't it? It goes
Jab, that film, that cube shows up in like 7 films.
That's what I meant. It gets smashed.
Like
6 years down the line, it gets smashed.
It gets dropped in the ocean. It gets smashed. It gets sent to space.
Yeah.
Lots of things happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it absorbs up to 99% of visible light. This Black 3.0 paint. Obviously, you've got to apply it well. You can spray it on. You can brush it. You can use a roller. As I said, I brushed this on with a makeup brush. They say to use a soft brush. I think it might have been too soft. But yeah, it can work on most surfaces: wood, paper, canvas, plastic, metal, plaster, loads of things. It's just very cool. Specifically, they say it smells like fresh coffee and not available to Kapoor.
Does it? Can I smell it?
Yeah, go ahead.
There it is.
No, I think that
Does not smell like fresh coffee.
not when it dries.
I want to sniff this anyway.
Like Black 3.0 there.
No, it smells like nothing.
Don't.
Doesn't smell like coffee, but it smells nice.
It's like you're doing poppers.
Have I got it on my nose?
You got it on your nose.
Oopsie.
Oh no, you've opened up a hole in space-time in your
You
nose.
can stay now.
Yeah, so again, if you want us to paint something with this, just tell us in the comments. Comment down below and we'll do that, probably. Maybe, at some point.
I think that's a perfect TikTok trend. Comment saying what you wanted to paint black Lex. You can make a whole channel about that on TikTok. That would go so well.
Someone has probably already done that.
Well,
Yeah.
not as well as we will.
So yeah, it's just a paint that you can paint on. It's very cool. It's very easy, and also it's very fun. I'm just looking at the floor there, and it does look like there's a little hole in the ground.
Wow, there better not be.
Well,
Have to pay to get that fixed.
Landlord's going to be onto you. Why is there a hole to the center of the earth in the floor of my house?
That's coming out of your deposit.
Just drop him down. Yeah, so it's the blackest matte black, and the thing is, that another thing with this is that a lot of black paints, a lot of black pigments tend to reflect some light and look a little bit shiny. This one doesn't. So there's a lot of reasons. I mean, definitely get it for yourself if you want, or just tell us what you want us to paint. But that's it for the stories there. That's kind of the story of Vantablack, the blacker black than Vantablack, and why Anish Kapoor is kind of a tool, I guess.
Usually
Put
we
it nicely.
tell stories of people who weren't appreciated in history and science. And today we're saying this guy who is currently alive, we don't like him.
He's a tool.
He's a kind of a tool, I think, in my estimation. But also, why would you? The thing
In
is,
our opinion.
no, objectively,
In Corey's opinion. Don't drag me into this.
you little
Yeah.
Anish sympathizer.
Apologist.
No, so that is the story for this week. That is the blackest black. What do you guys think?
Black.
Blacker.
Blackest.
There we go.
Amazing, blackest. Good. So that means it's time, probably now, for the quickfire quiz.
Dun 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 dun. Black edition.
So you know the rules for the quickfire quiz, don't you? Both of you? You're aware of them?
Never
no?
played it before.
Never played it before.
No.
Okay, well
You
I
have
will
to describe it to me.
I will describe it to you. I'll ask you both one question between the two of you. I need to finish asking the question before you can buzz in with your answer. The first person to buzz in with the correct answer wins. Jamp, you never played this before, but what do you think they win?
I would guess nothing.
You're gosh darn right. Absolutely nothing. Except that's not true today, because what you will win is just a little card of Black 3.0. In fact,
Perfect. Life on the line.
you win this square of Black 3.0.
Wow. That's more than
Yeah,
we've
I
ever
really-
had on this
I know.
quiz.
It's the biggest prize yet.
And runner-up will get this slightly
Nice.
This is what's up for grabs today.
Half
Wow.
a sheet of Black 3.0.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, my question for you both is, today.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, the
Shouldn't there-
buzzers. I always
I've never
forget
played
that.
this before, but shouldn't there be some kind of buzzer system?
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
You know what? I skipped ahead. I just skipped.
Thank
So
you.
why don't you tell me what your buzzers are, Jamp? Don't say black. No, not that.
Woo, woo, which is the police coming to get you for using Vantablack because it's exclusively owned by Anish Kapoor.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
My buzzer will be, which is the sound of nothing, just like when you have the
Right.
blackest black.
Right, but how will we know when you've buzzed?
As soon as he asks the question, I will immediately have buzzed.
But how will we know?
I will just, anytime there's even a moment's silence, that's me buzzing.
But it is
Look, you buzzed too
silence.
early. Sorry, you've.
Oh, I've lost the quiz. I need to keep saying
I need
things.
to finish
There's never a silent moment. I've not buzzed yet. Corey, quickly answer the question. Ask the question. I need to answer the question as quickly as possible. Please ask the question now. Ask it now, please, Corey. Corey, ask it now.
So my
What's the
question
going to be,
for
Corey?
you is the question.
Buzz now.
No answer to the question until I've
Vertic-
finished asking it, Luke. Goodness, please just change your buzzer. What's your buzzer?
Okay.
Good enough.
Perfect.
Okay. The question for you is, what does Vanta in Vantablack stand for?
Woo, woo.
So close, Luke. So close. Jamp, what does it stand for?
Vertically aligned nanotubular array.
Yeah. Vertically aligned nanotube
Thank
array.
you.
Well done.
I remembered it.
Congratulations.
Proof
get-
that my memory lasts longer than 30 minutes.
I consistently repeated that to myself every 5 minutes.
Me
And
too.
your runner-up prize, Luke,
Do I want it?
you have to have it. It's not so
It's
much a prize.
compulsory.
it's not so much a prize as it is a punishment. You need to carry that with you at all times.
It's that or the
forever
bullet,
now.
This is my
unfortunately.
COVID passport.
That and the bullet. Luke,
And the
say your prayers before you leave this room.
Our Father, who art in heaven.
No,
Hallowed
no.
be thy name.
Science podcast.
Thy kingdom
Science
come.
podcast. No,
Thy will be done,
religion and
On earth
education are not mixing
as
here.
it is in heaven.
This is like
Give
a
us
public
this
school in
day
America.
our daily
We're
bread.
not doing this.
And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those.
It looks
who
like you're
trespass
reading it off of that
against
tiny little card.
us. Lead us not into temptation. Hang on a second.
the world's
The font is quite small. Let me just deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours forever and ever. Amen.
It's the entire Bible on that tiny little card. There.
This one says, Luke, let's just end the bloody show.
Oh, really? That's a bigger font than is on mine.
It's a massive font. Look at that.
Mine's the biggest. It doesn't say anything.
So that is the show for this week. Well done, Jamp, for winning the quickfire quiz.
Thank you.
Not bitter at all.
No.
No, not at all. No. Is there anything you guys would like to say before we go? No?
No.
No? Good.
No.
Okay. Before we go, we would like to thank all of our patrons, but with a very special thank you to our executive producers, Ashley Muller, Anoni May, and Finn TZ. But also, thank you for watching. You can find the full references for this episode in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday, and why not leave us a nice wee comment? You can support the pod at patreon.com/SciGuys, or you can find and contact us at SciGuysPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and SciGuys on TikTok too. Or you can send us an email at SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
That's SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
SciGuysPod
At gmail.com. You can follow me at NotCar everywhere.
You can follow me at Jampkin everywhere.
You can follow me everywhere. Sorry, Corey's
Goodbye!
You're playing footsies under the table. Okay.